Fair enough. We can do it.
What's good, y'all? You already know what it is. It's your boys from the Otaku House. It is I, Kente the Timberwolf.
Turtle.
I don't know why that gets me every time. Swear to God. But,
I guess because you're trying to be colorful and express, and I'm just like, yo.
It probably is. But yeah. Welcome to the Otaku House. Stay as long as you want. Leave whenever you're ready. But remember, we here to have a good time. And for this episode in particular, actually, just real quick, how was your week?
I don't want to talk about it.
All right, yeah, all right. Mine was just not bad, but like I was at home a week. I just came from surgery. I'm good, but I was at home the entire week. And it was something. But yeah,
I wish I was at home the entire week.
But we here now. We alive. So
we gonna do what we came here to do.
Exactly.
All right. So subject matter today is basically Disney's influence on the series they obtained from other companies and then released, such as Saban having Digimon. Hey, Cornell. Such as Saban, who they had bought back in 2001, giving them access to Power Rangers, Digimon, and other series that don't matter as much as Power Rangers and Digimon, because they got like the Knights of Tanirnu, I believe is.
Oh, Tirnanog?
Thank you, Tirnanog. Mm-hmm. But they didn't do anything with it. They just let the series die, so not as relevant.
Okay.
So about that, because the very different approaches they took to the series led to two very different results.
Right.
We have not covered on the show before, but I've discussed before that the Disney era of Power Rangers, let's be real here, it was the best era of Power Rangers we ever had.
Honestly.
It started with Wild Force, which I enjoy.
I hated it.
But after that one, there really stops being a divide. It goes into Ninja Storm, Dino Thunder, SPD.
The 3 best seasons of Power Rangers ever.
The 3 best seasons of Power Rangers ever. And they were back to back.
Like, oh my God. Absolute fire.
Guys, they were...
Yes.
Unfortunately, after that, it went into Mystic Force, which, while I thought was okay...
I mean, I didn't hate it, though. I didn't like... Yeah. So... It's not that I hated Mystic Force, because the theme song is actually pretty cool. I'll give you that. What I didn't like was that everybody was basically related to each other, right? Like, I think outside of the Green Ranger, the Yellow Ranger, and like the assistant, everybody was related, right? The mentor was Snow White, her son was the Red Ranger, her husband was an auxiliary ranger. Like, I just didn't like the family dynamic of them being rangers, which, I mean...
Okay, so I get where you're coming from. I was actually okay with the capes. I thought the capes was a good look.
Yeah,
they were going for the mystical, magical look.
Yeah, they're mages, so it kind of makes sense. Like, here's my thing. Like, in ranks of what they're doing, or at least how they make it work for the series, I'm okay with them, one, having capes and them being family, over, honestly, Lightspeed Rescue, where it was legitimately a job.
Yeah.
That was, like, don't get me wrong, I don't hate Lightspeed, but when you zoom out and look at it and realize that they're all just jobs, like they're just doing their job, they just happen to be able to morph into a ranger suit, that kind of like, it takes you out of it just a little bit, which...
And they did it in a different way from SPD, where SPD did the job thing, but it was done with so much more respect.
Yes, definitely.
Because when it came for Lightspeed Rescue, even though it was a job, it was a public job. All the identities of the Rangers were known. Right. Their base location was known. Like where they kept their weapons, where they kept their Zords. All the information about their secret operation was public knowledge.
Yeah.
Guys, SPD was a police department, but no one knew the identity of it, and it was done to perfection, yes. No one knew the identity of the Rangers.
Yep.
You knew SPD, you knew Space Patrol Delta. But you didn't know, you knew it had a Red Ranger, a Blue Ranger, a Green Ranger, a Pink Ranger, a Yellow Ranger. You didn't know who those Rangers were unless you were part of the police department. Yeah. They were considered the elites.
Yeah.
Like, they had normal cops that just went around the streets doing stuff.
Although, can we just point out one small, minor, honestly kind of insignificant detail is that they didn't really live up to their name. Like,
they didn't patrol space?
They didn't patrol space. Like,
yeah, they never left the planet.
It was all on Earth, or whatever should have been called Earth, if that wasn't. But yeah, like, they were on Earth the entire time. They just had alien races come through, but that was it.
That's fair. Also, they took a criminal off the street and made him the leader of the Power Rangers.
Let's be real here.
And he was the best Red Ranger. I will fight.
Shout out to Von Coop, because he would actually argue. There's a homeboy of mine who's actually he's interviewed some of the Rangers, some of the actors who played Rangers. I know for a fact that his favorite one being TJ. Solid spot.
Yep.
Gotta love TJ. Mm-hmm. Even if you didn't like the season, you still gotta love TJ.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm for it.
Super Police Department. Okay, that's actually kind of funny. Although, to be fair, as cool as Space Patrol Delta is, and it is, and as, honestly, as goofy as Super Police Department is, Super Police Department is actually more accurate.
Honestly, pretty much.
But going into that real quick, to get back on the topic real quick, also, SPD is your favorite, great taste. But Mystic Force, my issue with it, I guess, was just that it seemed like the scale was lower. Like, whenever Ninja Storm had a threat, it was, oh, the city is going to be wiped out. We need to stop this from happening. We're going to use our ninja skills to defeat these guys. Whenever Dino Thunder had an issue, it was like, we're going to bring back dinosaurs, and dinosaurs and humans cannot live side by side, so the dinosaurs on the world would be a big issue for every other species on the planet at the time. SPD is SPD. Like, they were dealing with like actual criminal overlords and the underworld and all this other stuff.
Right.
So I guess Mystic Force, you had a pissed off witch.
Yeah, actually, now think about it, I don't even remember what the main villain
exactly.
wanted. Yeah. Like, at least with, like, going back to Mighty Morphin, at least I could figure out that one, right? That one makes sense. Rita just wanted to make sure she could take back control over the Earth because that's what she had at the time, right? Even going into Zeo and Turbo, like, essentially, you know, Zordon and more of Rita Repulso and some of the evil organizations, or the Legion of Evil, basically, they wanted to do the same shit, right? They want to do the same things, but like even the Machine Empire just wanted to be like, did y'all forget about us? We rule here, right? So like I get it, but like even Divatox and some of the other one, Andromeda, like I remember what they wanted. I don't remember what the villain from
Mystic Force was.
Yeah, like
and I'd still put Mystic Force above Operation Overdrive. Because Operation Overdrive, I'm not going to lie, I didn't finish Operation Overdrive.
That's fair.
It was so bad.
It was. I was okay with it. I didn't like their Sixth Ranger. Their Blue Ranger was worse than Wild Force's Blue Ranger. But I understand that was just his personality overall. Their Black Ranger was a coon. But like, for whatever reason, still one of the best Rangers in that series. And honestly had the best morphing sequences outside of the two that the girls did off of each other. Watch it and you'll know what I'm talking about. And Once a Ranger.
Once a Ranger was dope.
Once a Ranger was amazing. I just love the remixes they did of the theme song. That was it. Johnny Young Bosch will forever be one of the best Black Rangers. One of. Zach Taylor is still the man.
Thanks, Ichigo.
Yeah, that's fair. If you don't know, Johnny Young Bosch is the voice of Ichigo.
And the voice of Zero in the Marvel vs. Capcom franchise after Zero joins.
Oh, okay, that's what's up.
And honestly, he kills it as Zero, too. Like
as Johnny Young Bosch, I believe it.
Yep. But I'm actually glad you brought up that Operation Overdrive does some things that are good. Because I would like to get into that real quick.
Okay.
Not with Operation Overdrive, though. With the other series that Disney got from Saban.
Oh.
Digimon Savers, which they brought over to America as Digimon Data Squad. The series that should have been the best Digimon series to date.
Should have been.
And somehow screwed up. It just screwed up enough small things throughout the series to wind up being the worst season of Digimon to show up at that point.
Yeah. ironically enough. Which is really weird when you have a character like Marcus Damon who stood on business basically every episode. Like, Marcus Damon, for those of you who don't know, just watch the first episode. Because his partner Digimon is an Agumon. And the way they choose to introduce you to his partner is to see him, Marcus Damon, punching him in the face. Like, their first interaction is a fist fight. I cannot stress this enough. His partner, his ride or die Digimon, he is fighting him, punching him and trapping him in the middle of God knows where.
And his partner is beating him too.
Oh yeah, he's going back. Yeah, Agumon's throwing jabs. But it's absolutely them fighting.
Absolutely. Real quick though, because he brought Johnny Young, Bosch has voiced over 100 roles, and one of the things he voiced was Dante from Devil May Cry.
Oh yeah, we were just talking about that before the show.
And Dan Southworth as the Quantum Ranger voiced Virgil, his brother. That means both of the two bigs from Devil May Cry were Power Rangers.
But I just don't like the Quantum Ranger.
And the funny thing is apparently DMC... Oh, by the way, Cornell, I'm glad you brought that up, because before I continue the Digimon thing, real quick, it turns out the director of Devil May Cry is a huge Power Rangers fan. And that's why so many of the characters are voiced by Power Rangers.
Wait, how many more are voiced by Power Rangers?
About 5.
Oh, snap. Okay.
Because he is such a huge Power Rangers fan, he went out of his way to find Power Rangers actors who would be willing to voice characters in his games.
That's what's up. I need to look this up now.
Yep, and that's why in Battle for the Grid, a great game, guys, the Quantum Ranger fights like Virgil.
That makes sense. Okay.
It was just them giving that respect back.
Right. Hey, show love. I'll show love back. I hear that.
So to go back to the Digimon subject, just after geeking out for a few seconds right there.
I mean, this is what we do.
Marcus Damon, episode 1. I'm going to go back to this. Episode 1, his partner Digimon, he got by beating the shit out of them. Mm-hmm. They fought all day. Oh yeah, Johnny Young Bush was an arrow. You correct.
Still.
But he fought Agumon all day. Mm-hmm. They got into a fist fight with each other all day, and then Agumon agreed to follow him around. He didn't have a Digivice yet.
Oh yeah, that's true. I actually remember that. You're right.
Like, after fighting Agumon from morning till dusk, guys, at the end of the day, he won that fight, and then Agumon's like, all right, I'll follow you anywhere, boss.
Yeah.
That was it. Agumon started following him around, and then he got his Digivice afterwards.
Yep.
And then going back again to episode 1, the first boss of Savers was a Kakatorimon that was like 20 or 30 feet tall.
Oh, yeah. I knew where you're going with this.
And they were about to grab the Digimon police, basically. DATS.
Yeah.
They're grabbing Digimon police to come deal with it, but they weren't going to be there in time. Himothy Damon climbs to the top of a building because Agumon is trying to fight off Kakatorimon and cannot do it at his level. Marcus jumps off a building to punch Kakatorimon in the face. Just to knock this 30-foot chicken on its behind. This was his plan. His plan was to get into a fist fight with what is effectively a kaiju. And it worked.
Yeah. And don't forget to mention, he won that fight. Oh my gosh.
He was then given a Digivice.
Yeah.
At which point he used the power he just gained to Digivolve Agumon into Geogreymon.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And just...
Marcus Damon is him. And it's sad because he's the one tamer out of all the Digimon lead tamers who didn't have goggles and absolutely deserved it. Like, I really want to reinstate the fact that, like, Marcus Damon was him. All right? He was Abraham Lincoln. Like, Abraham Lincoln, I'm telling you, the best episode to show you just how awesome Marcus Damon was is not even in his home season, unfortunately. This is in the season that follows his, right? His successor season, in which the last episode, or at least the last 2 episodes, shows, for anybody who's watched Digimon, Venomoyotismon. But not 1, I'm pretty sure it was 5?
It was 4.
4.
He knocked 1.
He jumped again. He runs off of a building, jumps off, punches a Venomoyotismon into 3 other Venomoyotismon.
And kills all 4 of them. That is a mega level Digimon. He knocked out 4.
Wait, is he actually mega level, or is it like I thought? Like he kind of does like a burst mode. I thought Myotismon was technically
Myotismon's an ultimate.
Oh, okay, boom. So there we go. Yeah,
Myotismon just splits off at that point. He either goes raw power, which is very important for this. Goes raw power, where he turns into Venomoyotismon, and therefore is the stronger one, or he keeps his intelligence and he goes into Malomyotismon.
Gotcha. I thought it was Sidemon, but gotcha.
So it was raw power. Marcus killed 4 of those in his Saitama mode.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because this was not a combo. This was not a punch, 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 punch. No, this was a 1 punch into 3 more, and all 4 died. There's at one point where Shoutmon, the main Digimon of that season, digivolves and is fist fighting alongside Marcus.
Yeah.
Marcus evolves his Agumon into Shine Greymon, and the 2 of them split up to proceed to beat Digimon.
And at that point, you weren't watching Digimon anymore. You were watching JJK before JJK. Because let's be real here, it was Jumping Nikujutsu.
Yeah. Marcus Damon was Gojo.
Yeah. He was absolutely giving him the domain expansions.
And we bring all of this up to point out that Marcus Damon was the best leader Digimon ever had, and he was in the worst season of Digimon up to that point.
Yeah.
And now, don't get me wrong, Disney unfortunately didn't have a lot to work with because Savers was broken from the jump. Yeah. Data Squad was just somehow worse.
Somehow.
Even though the voice for Marcus Damon was on point.
Absolutely.
Savers, up to this point in Digimon, had the best looking evolution sequences. It had the only team up to this point where the entire team got to hit the highest level of power.
This is facts. No.
Let's be real here. There were 4 of them. Everybody else was side characters.
True, but Tamers.
Kazu and Kenta were there from the jump.
Oh, that does count. Yeah, you're right. They do count. One of them got a mega.
One of them walked into a mega.
Hey, look. However you get it, how you live it. But nonetheless, you're right.
Kazu was done dirty.
Kazu was absolutely done dirty because he was better than Takada and should have gotten it. But
yep,
you're right. Marcus Damon and actually that whole team of Sabers all got megas.
Yep. Marcus, Thomas, Yoshi,
Keenan.
All didn't just get mega. Because they got Mega, and then Marcus got Burst Mode,
and then they all got Burst Mode. Although I want to point out one thing. So, don't get me wrong, Sabers did a lot of things right. I'm not a big fan of Rise and Shine, but I do want to point out one thing that I didn't like, that I felt like should have been done better than what they did. So, if you've ever seen the show, actually, for those of you who haven't, if you have at least seen the original 01 adventure, then you'll know what Warp Digivolving is because no one should forget it. But if you haven't, let me explain. Basically, Warp Digivolution is when you go from the base level rookie, which is the most minimalist level you need to reach in order for you to have your Digimon be able to fight efficiently, to the highest level, which is Mega, right? Like how we was describing with Malomyotismon and Venomoyotismon, right? The issue that I had with Sabers in this regard is that they did what was called double Warp Digivolve. And I had an issue with it because, honestly, what they did wasn't that different, but here's why I feel like a simple one word would have changed everything, right? They did double Warp Digivolving, which was from Rookie to Mega, and then from Mega into Burst Mode. That was their double Warp Digivolution. they changed double to burst warp digivolution, and it would have changed everything and fixed it.
I would like to correct something real quick. So a warp digivolution does not necessarily mean going from the lowest level to the highest level. It literally just means skipping a level.
That's true.
So when they said they were warp digivolving from rookie to ultimate, which is the first time they used it, that was technically correct. And,
true.
And that's why I wanted to give Sabers that credit, was that Sabers actually understood that. And that it was just skipping a stage counted as warp. My problem is that they then did double warp to go into Mega.
Yeah, and that was where I had an issue. Like, I'm okay with them breaking down warp digivolution so they can actually show what it needs to be done, or that what needs to be done so that we understand as an audience that, oh, okay, it's not just from Rookie to Mega, because by then I think that was the only time we ever seen it. But having them say double warp digivolve kind of just, like, it lessens it. Like, I know this is going to sound weird, but it's like taking the salt out the food, like taking the seasoning off the food when you were already cooking with such heat.
You see, that's why I was bringing up Disney. Oh, actually, so this is something we discussed before the podcast, but this is something that Disney does throughout Sabers, well, throughout Data Squad, but Sabers specifically did throughout their series that Disney had to work with, and they just messed so many things up. Because Sabers nailing that warp digivolution and that it's just skipping a stage it seemed like they knew what they were doing. But then Disney brought in, because if you're going from Rookie to Ultimate, it's warp. It's still warp. If you're going from Rookie to Mega, it's still warp.
Right.
The only thing that changed was where you ended. The type of evolution itself was the same.
Right.
And Sabers actually did that.
Right. No, you're right.
They warped from Rookie to Ultimate and then Rookie to Mega. The problem was when Disney got it, they did warp from Rookie to Ultimate, which is still correct, but then they did double warp to go to Mega. It showed that it should have shown that they had an understanding, and then they just dropped the ball.
Right.
And this is what I mean when I was saying like the stuff Disney handles is that they'll keep like nailing stuff and then dropping the ball.
Yeah.
Like it'll keep having these fantastic concepts and then dropping the ball.
Yeah.
It's the Dragon Ball Super before Dragon Ball Super.
Yeah, you did say that. My issue was just wording, because making them go from like Agumon to Shine Greymon, fine. But then from Shine Greymon to Burst Mode, then just call it Burst Warp Digivolution.
You see, the thing is I actually agree with that. If they were going from Agumon to Burst War Greymon, I completely agree on the director. If it goes from Agumon to Burst War Greymon, Burst Shine Greymon, then yeah, it should be Burst Warp Evolution, because the Burst Mode isn't really an evolution
as much as it is an extension.
Yes, but the problem is that they did double warp just going into Mega.
Yeah, that was an issue.
And then when they did Burst Mode, they still kept calling it double warp.
Yep.
Like it was wrong the first time you said it.
Yeah.
And
which is one of the reasons why it was, out of all the Digimon seasons, the one I don't remember the ending for. Which, granted, the season of which we do not speak is one that I really don't remember at all, because I couldn't continue it, but I will eventually finish and remember it. But it was one of the worst. It really was on its way out the door. And that was the sad part, because it shouldn't have been. Not with the lead characters who's that great as Marcus Damon.
Yep. Also, Thomas was also killing it. I'm actually going to get into what Cornell's talking about right now, because I was looking into this before we started. Okay. And it's a Power Rangers thing. But I want to finish the Digimon thing, and then I'm going to go right back to that Power Rangers thing, Cornell, because I'm glad you brought that up. Because the entire cast was great.
Yeah.
My problem, like, Marcus was the best leader.
Yeah.
And Thomas was a great Lancer.
Yes, he was.
Because he had his own motivations, he had his own development. His Digimon was unique enough from Marcus's for him to do his own thing. Whereas Marcus focused on power, he focused on speed. And then you had Yoshi, which she went from being the reasonable one in the group to just being the female.
Yeah.
And then you had Keenan, which was the child raised in the Digimon world. So it was the Mowgli of Digimon.
Which doesn't make sense, right? Like, I don't understand how that makes sense to them at all, right? And the reason why I say that is because they speak English, or at least Japanese, whatever. Nonetheless, they speak.
Yes.
So he should have been able to learn how to speak. Instead, he spoke in broken English, which
is crazy, because the Digimon that raised him didn't.
Yeah, at all. So it makes no sense. So I don't understand, one, why they did that, but two, another thing that, like, mind you, Keenan was one of my favorite characters, not because of Keenan, but because of Chromon. I love Chromon's entire evolutionary line. It just looked good. It was sleek. I love its design. Everything about it was it was fantastic. It was it was done very well.
So Chromon's a holy Digimon. Chromon's entire evolutionary line are holy Digimon.
Well, I can see that. It's part of the representative of death, though, but that makes sense.
They're also ninjas, but...
Okay, sure.
So, I'm glad you brought up the Keenan Broken English thing, because that's one of those times where Disney is involved. Because in the Japanese version, Keenan spoke the Digimon language.
Yeah, that actually would just make sense.
Which makes sense, because he was raised by Digimon. The reason they can understand Frigimon is because their Digivices are translating.
Yeah, actually, that would make more sense. Yeah, actually, to me, that would make way more sense than anything else, because, like, them understanding any language of the Digimon because their Digivices are translating, fine, perfect. I mean, you don't have to necessarily explain that, but if something that was just dropped along the way as a tidbit, like, oh yeah, that's the reason why they understand them, they actually speak a different language, alright, fine. My issue becomes, he shouldn't be a savage in the way that he is. Him not speaking English, fine, that makes sense. But him being a savage in that sense, no, he should just be acting like a Digimon.
So, which is crazy because the reason they bring up the whole him being a savage thing is that Kurata killed Frigimon and killed all of his friends and family. Which, at that point, wouldn't turn him into a savage. It would turn him into...
A recluse or anything.
A recluse. It would turn him into Matt.
Which? Which Matt? Because now I'm curious if you're talking about
Adventure
01.
Matt.
Okay, yeah. Alright, I thought that you meant somebody else.
No.
Yeah.
It turns him into 01 Matt.
Got you. Which is fair.
So that's another thing. That's another time where Disney dropped the ball. Like,
yeah.
Savers had a lot of good things and a lot of problems, but the few things like they did well, Disney just did not. They just messed up. They just didn't translate it over well.
Right.
Also, this is pure pettiness, by the way. All the Disney shows had gotten minute-long intros while they were on Fox. When they got Savers and made Data Squad, the theme song for Data Squad was great, but it was 30 seconds long. They cut their theme song time in half compared to all the seasons beforehand.
Yeah, because let's be real here. Seasons 1 through 3 were amazing. Season 4, but then season 5 just...
Could you imagine if we got World for Us All, but it was forced to be half the length?
I'd be upset.
Yeah.
Because that means it would end on the I am the one. I am the one. Digimon. What? Like, that doesn't feel natural. So, I understand what you're saying. That doesn't feel natural at all.
Yeah, and the thing is that, guys, the story of the show gets more time? No, you don't. No. Especially considering that intro, the season 5 intro, it starts building up momentum. It starts building up hype. And then the moment the hype hits its max, intro ends. They just... Especially like the line, like, because the intro, the English theme to Savers, the English theme to Data Squad matches the theme of Savers. Guys, unleash your soul, and you will reach your goal. Prepare to digivolve. Never surrender. Never be outdone. And then just dies. Because the challenge ain't over.
If I'm going to be honest with you, that doesn't necessarily describe the Digimon show as much as it describes Marcus Damon. That's just his theme song.
Because the thing was...
They just wrote Digimon over it. Yeah.
The English version is they're using their DNA power.
Oh, the Digisoul, yes.
Yes, the Digisoul. Because that was the point, is that you were putting your soul into it. You had to have the will to do what you needed to get done.
And Marcus Damon definitely did.
But I bring that up because you needed the will to get all that done, and Disney changed it to your DNA has to be good. That went from you having willpower to, were you born a hero?
Yeah. That doesn't quite have the same ring to it.
Mm-hmm. So there were like the few things Savers did well, Disney just cut out. But then I'm gonna use that to go right back into Power Rangers, because the reason Cornell's bringing up the reason Power Rangers was so successful is that Disney had no influence on them. They bought it and then let them
creative team what they do.
Yeah, the creative team do what they did. But unfortunately, Cornell, that's why Disney lost Power Rangers.
Yeah.
What led to Disney having the 3 best seasons of Power Rangers we ever got, and I will die on that hill, is also the entire reason they lost it. Because they wouldn't market it. Because they tried to market it, and then it was considered controversial. Because parents had an issue with the show being so violent. Which, are you serious?
Well, no. So, okay, I feel like it's less of parents had an issue with it being violent as much as mothers had an issue with with it being violent. Which, don't get me wrong, I'm pretty sure there's gonna be some dads out there that's be like, nah, that's a little too rough. But like, it's also Power Rangers, and the only reason why it's gonna be controversial is because Disney's showing it. When it was on Nickelodeon, no one said anything about it.
When it was on Fox.
When it was on Fox, no one said a word about it. But granted, that kind of makes sense also. But we're not going to talk about the Nickelodeon season because that's another day. But I feel like that's really more of a mom thing because Disney was usually marketing towards girls, and so them showing Power Rangers kind of about face that.
And yes, Cornell, the whole parents have an issue with the violence thing is not a new thing. Don't get me wrong, but because Disney got that backlash, they stopped marketing the shows. They stopped, like, if you were watching Power Rangers, it's because you just already knew about it. Disney wasn't airing commercials for it. They weren't marketing their toys for it. They weren't doing anything for it other than airing it because they were getting backlash for marketing the show. So because they were taking such an offhand approach to the show, Saban demanded to buy it back. So the offhand approach they took that made Power Rangers so good is the exact reason they lost it.
That makes sense. It's unfortunate, but it makes sense.
It's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't situations.
Right. Which it shouldn't have been because, like, what was there was another, no. Oh, no, you know what? I'm thinking about another company altogether.
That was another thing, actually. Because the reason I was bringing that caveat into Power Rangers is because the same thing happened with Savers. Because Savers had one of the darkest stories of Digimon up to that point with actual digital genocide.
Again, I don't remember.
Karada.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. Yeah, oh.
And it got toned down in the English version. Like, as brutal as it was in Data Squad, it was worse in Savers.
Which is the Japanese version of it.
And it got toned down because of how dark it was. Did it ever hit Tamers dark? Arguably. Because
Tamers was dark.
And Tamers was dark. And Savers was arguably darker. But it got toned down because Disney owned them and they couldn't be showing genocide to children.
Right. I mean, you're not going to show it, but you could definitely mention it, and that's all as bad as it is.
Hey, I'm glad you like the Genie lamp. We figured it'd be nice because we were going to be discussing Disney today.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I bring all of this up because of the whole Disney, how they influence... Don't you open that.
Yeah, no.
Because of the influence Disney has, because people are talking about how much influence Disney has on Marvel right now.
Yeah. Oh, God, I don't want to get into this. How much time do we have? Because I could be here all day.
We've been recording 34 minutes.
I have my issues with where Marvel is going, and I know Disney has their influence on what's going on, and I know that with everything that's been going on, obviously with Jonathan Majors, and I think Hawkeye, the actor who plays Hawkeye,
Jeremy Renner.
Thank you. Jeremy Renner is better now after the snowplow incident. Like, I think things are okay for them as people. Unfortunately, not so much for Jonathan Majors, but that's not here or there. I feel like there's so much now they can do to either one, pivot and fix what's going on, but as long as they do not reset.
Yes.
But boy, Hardy, I feel like as long as they don't reset, we should be fine.
I'm going to be controversial with this. They should have recasted T'Challa.
I don't even think at this point that's even controversial anymore. Like, I know I was definitely on the don't recast him list, but I think after hearing Cat Williams, who is controversial, which hopefully we don't get banned for saying his name, I actually agree with him. Like, when Christopher Reeve passed away, rest in peace, we didn't lose Superman. Superman didn't die.
No.
You know what I'm saying? So, like...
We had 3 Spider-Mans in 10 years.
Yeah. And honestly, so that's why I'm just like, granted, I think the issue was, which I get it, right? I absolutely get it. The reason why Black Panther wasn't recast is because Chadwick Boseman did such an amazing job. It's hard to follow that up again. But if we're gonna be real here, and I know this is gonna be controversial, oh snap! I can't believe I forgot to do his name right now.
Yeah. Snap.
Shout out to the last episode, but no. Oh Jesus, you have to forgive me, people. But the guy who played Joker.
Which one? Heath Ledger?
Heath Ledger, thank you. Heath Ledger did such an amazing job with Joker that for a long time they didn't want to have anybody else play him. But Joaquin Phoenix did an amazing job in my opinion. So that's why I'm just like...
To be fair, Joaquin Phoenix came after Jared Leto.
Yeah, but you see how badly I just skipped over Jared Leto until you said something?
That's what I mean, though, is that the next Joker after Heath Ledger was Jared Leto.
Yeah, and I didn't even remember he said it. I mean, I didn't even remember he did it. But also, that was just a bad movie overall, in my opinion. Will Smith should have never been Deadshot, but...
I thought Will Smith was one of the good parts of that movie. I thought Will Smith did a good job. I thought Margot Robbie did a good job. I thought nobody else was even given the chance to do a good job.
Margot Robbie obviously did great as Harley Quinn. But I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. And if you don't believe me, watch his movies again. And then watch The Rock, because unfortunately The Rock's movies does the same thing as Will Smith. Will Smith does not act like the character he's supposed to be acting as. He acts like himself, trying to pretend to be the character he's supposed to be acting as. Will Smith is not a bad actor. He just shouldn't act as certain characters because he doesn't do them justice. Deadshot, to me, was one of those characters. I couldn't sit back and take myself or suspend the disbelief that Will Smith wasn't Deadshot. Like, to the entire time I wasn't watching Deadshot, I was watching Will Smith. And it was hard for me to watch the movie and enjoy it for it.
There's only one scene in that movie that Will Smith was Deadshot that I had an issue with. I thought he did fine the rest of the movie, but I'm not getting into this because that's not what this episode's about.
That's fair. You're right. I have a visceral reaction when it comes to that one because I don't think it was good.
I thought he did great. We're going to argue on this till the end of the day, so we're going to move on.
I will die on this hill.
You're dying alone.
I would gladly.
But something he brought up, though, was Spartacus. Spartacus was a very popular TV show when it dropped. And the main actor, the main reason people liked the show because of how good a job he did, he died after season 1 of sun cancer because they were filming in the sun. They weren't letting these use sunscreen. And they just continued the show, by the way. They just continued the show.
That's ridiculous.
They swapped him out for a new actor, and the new guy did great.
And that's what I'm
would
saying.
you argue that the first guy was better? I would.
But of course. But now the question comes in, who could play T'Challa better than Chadwick Boseman? And granted, I don't think anybody can play it better, but the only other person, just me because I'm a fan of his personally, so I am being biased, the only person who I think could even do remotely a good job as Chadwick Boseman is Sterling K. Brown.
We've been over this before. The name sounds familiar. I'll recognize him if I see his face.
You will, but I can't think of anything right now that you would know him in. I know you know him. I just can't remember what you know him in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yes, going back into that though, the whole not recasting T'Challa thing, as a respect to him, I appreciate, rest in power, the respect given to him, that you also just
on Black History Month.
Mm-hmm. You also just threw away all the work he did.
Yeah, that's true.
He filmed every one of those movies while sick. He felt that strongly about making sure that character was properly portrayed. So he apparently had cancer through Civil War, through Black Panther, through Infinity War, and through Endgame. He was sick the entire time and kept filming that character because he wanted that character to be done justice. Mm-hmm. And what happened as soon as he passed? You dropped it.
Yep.
Dropped him entirely. The straight disrespect to that man in doing so was just...
Yeah, because didn't you tell me that even the family wanted him to be recasted?
Yeah, the family wanted him to be recasted.
Yeah, and honestly, I agree now because, like, as unfortunate as it is, Chadwick Boseman passed away. T'Challa didn't die, though.
Nope.
T'Challa was dusted, but T'Challa came back.
Yep. And that's a nice thing to do to the family. Don't get me wrong, it was a nice portrayal. It was nice to honor him in death, but you really just spent 30 minutes and then another hour and a half reminding his family that he died.
Yeah.
Just over and over and over again. Which, don't get me wrong, I love Wakanda Forever. But
it was a good movie.
It was a good movie.
Yeah, it was a good movie. I actually liked it.
But the fact that rather than recast him and just let somebody else take over the role that he spent so many years sick setting up and developing.
Because honestly, now that sorry to cut you off, but now I see what you're saying. Like with the way Chadwick did T'Challa and Black Panther, like he made a stepping stool so that someone else could take it a whole lot further than he did. And honestly, I might be out of place for saying this. I feel like even he would have said, "Yeah, replace me." Like he's a character. I am not him. The character is separate. I mean, granted, Chadwick Boseman is him,
yes.
But like T'Challa is a character that can be played by someone else and probably taken a whole lot further.
Yes. And again, that might be out of pocket, but I agree. I feel like the reason he did all of that while sick was to make sure that character continued.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I hope he's resting. Also, on the idea that they just bring in Killmonger to be the new Black Panther, disagreed. I'm sorry, my friend, but no.
Like, don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of Michael B. Jordan as well, but Michael B. Jordan is not the character that we needed to see or it's not the person we need to see as T'Challa or Black Panther. Like,
there was a whole movie about why that can't happen.
Yeah, like we got the one and done, and he's good. Like he said, the man ain't from Wakanda.
Yep.
He said that in many interviews. He's not from Wakanda, so like I get it, but no. Honestly, there's plenty of young actors out there who could have done the job. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe for flashbacks with, like, I mean, after Wakanda Forever, we could probably get flashbacks with the younger T'Challa and get that going for when.
You know what's the crazy thing is? He didn't even have to be young. Doesn't have to be a young actor.
No, he doesn't.
T'Challa himself had been doing it a minute.
Oh yeah, hot minute.
So I guess, like, he was an older person. That kid that shows up in Wakanda Forever was going to show up no matter what.
Yeah, because the whole storyline behind that was going to be different entirely. So yeah, I'm fine with that. But what I'm saying is because the reason why they introduced his son in Wakanda Forever is so that actor can eventually become the new Black Panther. Like that's how I see that leading into.
Yes.
Right now,
he was going to be part of the next Avengers or the Kid Avengers.
Right, or Young Avengers.
Young Avengers.
So like, and as far as that's concerned, I'm cool with that. Right? If Letitia Wright still wants to be the Black Panther for that case, for like the next Black Panther movie, fine. I still have no issues with that either.
Nope.
I don't think she did a bad job. I do love the Killmonger scene that she had in the ancestral plane. But with that being said, though, did you just do the? I saw that.
Real quick.
What's up?
So Killmonger is related to the royal family. That's not what we mean when we say you're not from Wakanda. He was not born nor raised in Wakanda.
Granted, the actor was saying that because he didn't want to do the salute, but like Killmonger, the character, Eric Killmonger, wasn't born in Wakanda, wasn't raised in Wakanda. His dad was from Wakanda. Oh, Sterling K. Brown. Sterling K. Brown was his father. Yes, I keep forgetting he's in the movie. Yes, Sterling K. Brown is his father. Granted, we only see him for that one scene. He should be like.
Okay, then in that case, they couldn't use him to replace T'Challa.
I mean, true.
Because he already has an established character with that face.
Yeah, but like, no one's gonna remember. And I don't mean like no one's gonna remember that he's him. It's just like he looks good enough that they could probably still do it, and no one's gonna be like, oh yeah, that was him, because I forgot. I've seen the movie 3 times and I forgot.
I've seen that movie so many times.
Yeah, honestly, the movie's amazing. But yes, so with that being said, like I think with the introducing his son could end up going into being the Black Panther, and that's why he was introduced.
And that was always the plan.
Right.
His son was supposed to be introduced halfway through the movie.
Yeah, that's true too.
But they had to change that because of Chadwick Boseman's death. And by had to change that, I mean because they refused to recast T'Challa, they had to change that. And and the whole point of bringing up that he was not born in Wakanda, he was not raised in Wakanda for Killmonger, is that he does not understand Wakanda. He does not care about Wakanda.
Yeah, he doesn't care about Wakanda traditions or cultures. He just cares that
there's no redemption story to do with Killmonger. He died believing what he was doing was right.
Hell yeah! Did you not hear the last words of that man? What? Yeah,
there's not really any redeeming there, because he actually ended up influencing T'Challa.
Yeah, so much so that like nobody thinks he was wrong. It was just like bury me with my ancestors because they knew death was better than enslavement.
Yep.
Granted, I know I butchered the quote, but still, that's what it was. Nonetheless,
Death was better than bondage.
Death was better than bondage. But no,
it's not about him dying, Cornell. It's about the fact that he died believing he was in the right. At no point during his entire character arc did he even... he liked T'Challa. He respected T'Challa. And still refused to adjust his ideals at all.
Yeah. The issue isn't necessarily with the character and bringing him back to being Black Panther. The problem is with the ideal that he had. If you bring back Killmonger, it basically undoes everything that he died for. Or at least the mindset or the ideal that he died for. And so it would kind of, I don't know about, maybe everybody else wouldn't have an issue with it. It would leave a bad taste in my mouth.
I don't mind, I wouldn't have mind him coming back to life. Because I don't believe that it undoes everything he did. My issue is that if he comes back to life and takes over for T'Challa, then there is no redemption that happened there. Because the only person on that planet he respected was T'Challa. And T'Challa couldn't even influence him to change.
Yeah.
So he would have just taken over Wakanda and started doing what he was already doing.
Yeah, what he was already planning on doing in the first place.
So there's no redemption arc that can happen because he couldn't be redeemed because, honestly, he wasn't entirely in the wrong. He was straight up like the Malcolm X. It was
Malcolm X.
Yeah. T'Challa and him wanted the same thing.
Just wanted two different ways of going about it. Which, shout out to Black History Month.
Yep.
Honestly, that's what it... Never mind. But yeah, that's basically what it was. That's why, I'm not personally okay with them reviving him. I feel like reviving him kind of undoes that because he's just going to do what he was already going to do in the first place. So even if you do bring him back, like you said, there's no redemption for it.
Yeah. Because as far as he's concerned, there's nothing to redeem. Hell, there were people in Wakanda who agreed with him.
Yeah. Actually. Shout out to Daniel Kaluuya.
Yep. The moment it was revealed that T'Challa wasn't dead and therefore the challenge wasn't over, anybody loyal to the throne should have immediately
switch sides.
Yeah, should have immediately switched back over to T'Challa.
Yeah, because let's be real here. Okoye said it best. I am loyal to the throne, no matter who sits upon it.
So the moment the challenge wasn't done, the Dora Milaje
immediately was on T'Challa's side
because he was still the current king. But the Herding tribe, the fact that they stayed with Killmonger,
the Barrier tribe,
yeah,
they also heard it. Yeah, you're right. There was a farming tribe, but essentially they were the Barrier tribe. That's why they had the whatchamacallit like that. Which shout out to the technology in that movie. I still, to this day, I don't understand how they did that.
It's the best looking MCU movie.
It really is, bro. You took cloth, implemented technology into it in such a way that all I have to do is hold it up like a shield and it becomes one. Bruh, I'm sorry. If that's not some Log Horizon SAO type deal right there, that is, bruh. That was amazing. That was amazing.
Dog, the suit forming around their body looking so seamless, the cloth coming up to make a shield.
Even, bro, honestly, everything was on point. Even, that's what I call them, sneakers. Bro, everything about that movie was on point. Everything was on point. I love that movie so much.
Black Panther was so good.
It really was.
Not even just as a respect to black people movie, which it's just as a movie.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Okay.
That was one of the few times where I'd say Disney's influence helped.
Yeah.
Because people talk about how Disney is woke and inclusive and they're trying to do it to make money. Well, congratulations. They let an entire black staff work on Black Panther and it was better off for it.
Yeah. But now, since we're here in this conversation, would you mind, indulging me?
Yes.
Right? It is Black History Month, by the way. So, you know what I'm saying? Kind of only fair, too.
Of course.
But I've always said this when I saw the movie, because, mind you, I think we're one of the few people who we know saw the movie as many times as we have. and I've said this before, and I don't mean it in any way obviously to sound racist because I don't think it does, but I definitely think if you sit in, like, let's say you were in a movie theater when you saw it, or even if you're sitting at home and you're watching it again for a second, third, fourth, or fifth time, right? I do think that you should be able to sit back and kind of take yourself out of the movie experience and listen to the conversation, especially between T'Challa and Killmonger, right? I've always said this, and I still stand by it. The movie is a conversation between two black people that is loud enough for white people to hear so that they understand the struggle that we have as black people. One, to not just police ourselves, but to, it's like, one, to police ourselves, but to also not seek revenge in the way that we should be seeking it, because it's like, I still agree with the quote, it's a good thing all we want is equality, because if we want revenge, it'd be a whole different story. Right? And so, like I said, it's a conversation between black people loud enough that white people are hearing it. And I want to know what your thoughts on that necessarily. Like, I know you don't think Killmonger is wrong also.
No.
But, like,
I think the way he's going about it is wrong, but also I understand why he's going about it that way.
Okay. Because I know this is entirely different from the last week's episode, because genocide is bad. But we're not talking necessarily about genocide as much as it is. I would say in this sense, it's more so black superiority, but it's not even.
That is exactly what it is.
Okay, yeah.
That's what Killmonger's going for.
Right.
And I would like to bring up, real quick, Cornell, the people who are commenting on Disney making Marvel woke and therefore a problem, they have an issue with Phase 3 as well. They don't like Ragnarok, they don't like Black Panther, they don't like any of those movies either. They only like Phase 1, which had the original Iron Man, Captain America, all those movies. The people complaining about Disney making Marvel woke hate everything after the first phase.
Why?
Because Disney is making things woke. And we'll get into a conversation about woke later. That's a whole case on its own. Because people are dumb.
That's a whole episode, but yeah.
Yeah. So, as far as the conversation, yes, I was crazy, right? Yes, they hate everything after Phase 1 because it's too woke. But to answer your question about the conversation, so effectively, what T'Challa wants is equality, which is fair.
Right.
It's what the general black populace wants.
Right.
And
that's the Martin Luther King Jr. approach.
Because I will say this, I believe... Ugh. I will argue this. You said it's an argument between black people. I would like to agree with that, but I want to adjust it slightly.
Okay.
I think it is an inner argument of a black person between what they know is right and between what they think is effective. Because going for equality is what T'Challa is going for. He wants everybody to be on even playing ground as much as is reasonable.
Right.
Whereas Killmonger believes, based off how he has grown up, that that is simply not possible. And the only way for black people to stop being the inferior is to forcibly become the superior.
Yeah, but I see, granted, okay, so I do agree with that, because I know the issue with that is like shouting out to a whole different franchise. It's basically the Batman quote where, like, or at least I don't think it started with Batman, but like, if I kill a murderer or if I kill the last murderer on Earth, the number of murderers doesn't change.
Correct.
Right? So you basically be enforcing the very thing that you didn't like onto another race of people. Right? Despite the fact that you might be the minority in that location, or even if you are the minority in the world, you'd still be creating the exact same institution that you were raised in yourself. So I get that. But now my thing is like, or rather, I guess I want to reword the question into, is it like, obviously his mindset or the actions weren't going to be as effective as he wanted it, right? So then what would the change be to make it effective? Because I actually do think he's wrong. Like, I don't disagree with his mindset at all. Like, I completely understand it. You're right. Like, it's an inner monologue I think most black people have always had, which is why we police ourselves the way we do.
Yes.
Right? But I guess now my question is more so, how do we have that conversation so that people understand we've been doing this so long that the fact that you haven't caught on to it and we've been helping you to not basically unleash a beast or open Pandora's box in this way. How do we come to a common ground now? Like, now we've changed this. I apologize. We've changed this from a nerd conversation to what might be a pseudo like political conversation. But like, Black Panther to me was such a like great movie. I feel like it inspires conversations like these.
I would agree. Now, what could we do to change it so you understand what we've been doing all this time?
Right.
So, I'm actually glad you brought that up, because that's honestly...
Sup?
Yo. Because that's honestly where the argument between T'Challa and Killmonger comes in.
Right.
It's because T'Challa is asking the question, how can we help people see where we're coming from? How can we help people understand what we're trying to do? Whereas Killmonger is saying there is no way to do that. And because there is no way to do that, wasting our energy on that is... Could it be better spent using that energy to just get rid of the problem? Now, do I think Killmonger's in the right for that? No! Genocide is bad!
That's going to be a running joke. I promise. But, okay.
Although I like how we're both using the right hand, even though Thanos was...
Left-handed?
Yeah. But...
I'm right-handed.
I'm right-handed too, that's fair. But... T'Challa is trying to have this conversation. That's why his plan was to open Wakanda up to the world. Because from where T'Challa's standing... Actually, no. Let's start with Killmonger real quick. From where Killmonger's standing, Wakanda has all these resources. They have all the technology needed. They have the medicine needed. They have the weapons needed to help black people all around the world, and they're just not using it. They're just leaving black people to die globally. And Killmonger had an issue with that. T'Challa also had an issue with that. And which is why his plan was to open up communication with other countries. Because one of the big reasons for that is because Wakanda was so distrustful of the world, the same thing that Killmonger is. He's also distrustful of the world because of how he was raised and how he was treated growing up. So Killmonger is in the same mindset as the Wakandan elders. We cannot trust the world, so they chose to stay secluded, and he's choosing to conquer. Whereas T'Challa is the only one who's actually willing to try to have an open dialogue with the people of the world. And the elders think that T'Challa is doing too much, and Killmonger thinks T'Challa isn't doing enough.
Right.
T'Challa is the only one trying to have a middle ground. And that's where that conversation between black people happens. Is that you have people trying to have that middle ground with...
I just want to say something because I want to end on a question that I think would be paired
Holy
for the
crap.
next one. No, we cool. Honestly, I figured this was going to happen. That's why I'm not too mad about it. But we're definitely going to run this back. At least maybe not the question, but we're going to run this type of situation back.
Later, Cornell. Glad you were able to hop in.
Yep.
But as we are about to hit an hour, we're going to have to...
wrap this up. No, I got you. But I'm going to ask... I want to finish on a question, but like I just want to see where your mindset at and let you finish.
Yeah. Oh, right. So the conversation that black people are having where it's, listen, we are trying to get equality. It's actually where that quote comes from. Like, you lucky the only thing we're going for is equality, because if we were going for revenge, this would have been over a long time ago. Mm-hmm. It's like, T'Challa is even, I guess you can say, doubling down on that. It's like, I want equality. And then he brings up the vibranium, like, this is what we could be doing. Like, when he went through, I believe it was Korea to go capture Claw, and he basically flipped that city upside down to catch Claw.
Yeah.
Guys, that is what effectively one guy could do with their technology. If the whole of Wakanda wanted to, that's world ending.
Yeah.
But T'Challa doesn't want that. That's a problem. Because once you've become the enslavers, once you've become the conquerors, once you've done that, you've lost your way. You've lost who you are.
And that's fair. I get that. I understand that.
But he believes that but he said the reason that the world is so distrustful of them is because the elders refused to have that open communication. They didn't trust people at all.
Right.
Wakanda, guys, T'Challa was like, I don't trust people entirely, but I trust them enough that I want to at least try and have this dialogue with them. I want to try and show that if we show that we can be good people, we can hopefully attract the good people of the world. and that will help expand our reach to be able to help people.
Right. Because, I mean, honestly, and I agree with that because, honestly, let's be real here. When you're the sole owner of a piece of rock that can absolutely benefit the world, you can be the one who says yes or no to however anyone wants to use it. Mm-hmm. So I don't see a problem with that then. Right? But now, this is the question that I want to end our stream on because we are going to have to wrap this up. So I just want to ask this one question, right? I've actually asked you this before years ago, so this is the perfect time to bring this back up. But if it were possible to have, whether it's a piece of technology or knowledge or like whether it's something physical or intangible, right? If it was something that you knew that you could come up with or something that you did come up with that would help people specifically, or at least more, it would help everybody, right? It would help everybody of every race, right? Would you share it with everyone or would you share it with your people first?
Yep, I remember this question.
Yeah, right? Because basically, like, just to kind of clarify to anybody else who may not understand what I'm saying, let's say you did happen across the biggest chunk of Wakanda technology, like just what, like, the vibranium, right? Like, you came across vibranium. If you are black, shout out to Black History Month, if you are black and you basically came across vibranium, would you be telling other black people first and only, or would you be trying to help everybody? And there's a reason why I asked this, but we're gonna have to wrap that up. So I guess honestly, with everything that we just said, because we talked about a lot, this was honestly a great episode. I don't know how else to end this besides like.
Disney's not always the problem, but sometimes they are.
I mean, when they fucking up, when they messing up, they definitely are.
All right, Chaos, absolutely.
But with that being said, Otaku House, Otaku out.